My dear students, in the first secondary stage, welcome at Integrated Science Program. My name is Mr. Hani Muhammad. I am a teacher of Integrated Science. This session is prepared by Mr. Hani Muhammad and revised by the science subject expert Mr. Amr Mehdi. And now let's continue our Integrated Science Program with the first unit, Aquatic Ecosystem, Lesson 5, Biological Importance of Water. First, the cells of living organisms consists of organic molecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids. Also, it contains inorganic molecules such as water and mineral salt. So the water here is very important in the structure of the living organism. Also, water is the most abundant chemical substance in living organisms. Moreover, water is found inside and outside the cell. Also, water is present almost in all chemical reactions occurring in vital activities. So, the water is very important in our life and for the living organism. Also, we have another reason. In mammals, water constitutes about 70% of the body mass. About 40% of this percentage is found inside the cells, and about 23% is found outside the cells, whether in blood plasma or other body fluids. So water here is very important and it is an essential component for all the living creatures. Now, we need to go for classification of living organisms. Okay? Living organisms classified in two main categories. The first one is called by prokaryotes. Okay, and let's go to know the specific property for the prokaryotes. First, the genetic material is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane, such as bacteria. I want all of you to look through this diagram. Okay, you can find a bacteria which contains a cell membrane and cytoplasm, and you can find what the genetic material. And if you notice the genetic material here, it is not surrounded by the nuclear membrane. So you cannot see any kind of the nucleus, okay? So this kind of creatures, which called by the prokaryotes, okay? The genetic material, it is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane at all. And the most example for this, it is the bacteria. So the first categories of the living organism classification, the prokaryotes. And we know now exactly the important features of these creatures. Okay? Now, let's go to the second classification, okay, or the second category, eukaryotes. Okay, eukaryotes. In eukaryotes, the genetic material is enclosed by a nuclear membrane, and it contains specialized organelles such as mitochondria and plastids. Again, eukaryotes. The genetic material is enclosed by a nuclear membrane, and it contains specialized organelles such as mitochondria and plastids. Okay, so we have two main categories of the living organism, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, and you have to classify them and differentiate between them very carefully and in more accurate. Okay, now we need to classify the eukaryotes. Okay, eukaryote classified into four categories. The first one called by protista. Yes, repeat, protista. Okay, and the second one, fungi. Again, fungi. Third one, the plant. The fourth one, animal. Okay, so the eukaryotes classify into four categories. Okay, the first one, protista. second, fungi, third, plant, and the fourth one is animal. Now let's go for everyone, and we need to study them in more details. Let's go. First, Protista. Protista, it is unicellular or simple multicellular organisms. It's often aquatic and it can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Again, Protista, unicellular or simple multicellular organism. It's often aquatic. It means it lives in the water, and it can be autotrophic and heterotrophic. And now let's talk about the difference between the autotrophic and heterotrophic. Okay, let's go. Autotrophic, it is like the golden algae. Look to this picture. This represents the golden algae. Okay, and it is an autotrophic living organism. And autotrophic here means the living organism can make its own food without any depending on another living organism. Again, here the golden algae, it is autotrophic, and autotrophic here means the living organism can make its own food, okay, without depending on any living organism, okay? The second, it is heterotrophic, such as protozoa. And protozoa here means very simple living organism that consists of only one cell. Like what? Like Euglena and Paramecium, also amoeba. All of them called by protozoa. Okay? But what is meant here by heterotrophic? Okay? Heterotrophic here means the living organism in this case, okay, he cannot make its own food. He needs to be depend on another living organism. Okay, so the protozoa, like Euglena, like Paramecium, like amoeba, all of them heterotrophic living organisms. They cannot do their own food by themselves. Okay, and now let's go for the second category of the eukaryotes, the fungi. Okay, so what are the fungi? All fungi are multicellular living organisms, except yeast fungus, and they have cell walls made of chitin, and they are heterotrophic organisms, such as mushroom. Mushroom is very famous fungi, and a lot of people depend on it in the food, in preparing the good quality food. Okay, so again, fungi, all fungi are multicellular living organisms except yeast fungus. They have cell walls made of chitin, and they are heterotrophic organisms. By the way, what is the meaning here by heterotrophic? Yes, good. Heterotrophic here means the living organism cannot make its own food. Okay, it must be depend on another living organism. Okay, this is for the fungi. Let's now go for the third categories of the eukaryotes, plants. Okay, the plants are multicellular autotrophic organisms having cell walls made of cellulose, and can perform photosynthesis process to produce its own food. Good. So the plants are multicellular and autotrophic organisms. Don't forget, autotrophic here means the plant can do its own food, okay, through the photosynthesis process, okay? And We have many examples for the plant, the giant trees, or the aquatic plant, or even the desert plant. All of these different types or different shapes of the plants. And now let's go for the fourth categories of the eukaryotes. Animals. Okay? Animals here, the animals are multicellular heterotrophic organisms. Don't forget, heterotrophic again here. It means the animal cannot do its own food like the plant. Okay? So the animal are multicellular living organisms, heterotrophic, having no cell walls, okay? And they are usually capable to move, and they have a complex body system to survive. Okay, like this picture, we have a different kind of the animal, like giraffe, like elephant, like zebra, like rhino, deer. All of these are kinds of animals which they are, the all has a common features. Okay, they are heterotrophic and they have no cell wall. Okay, and they can move and they have a complex body system to survive. Okay, I think it's a little bit easy. And now let's go for another one. We need to check it and to concentrate and try to go for classifications of the animals. We need to classify the animal. The fourth one in the eukaryotes. Okay? Animals classified in two main categories. The first one called by vertebrates. Vertebrates, they have a backbone, such as fish, okay, amphibians like the frog, reptiles like Komodo dragon, birds, and it's also include the human, okay, which is in the top of all of this, the human. So vertebrates, they have a backbone, such as fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, including humans at the top. Okay, so here the main features for the vertebrates, the presence of backbone or vertebral column. It's clear now? Let's go for the second classification of animals, which is invertebrates. Okay, they have no backbone. The vertebrates haven't backbone, such as sponge. I think sponge is very important. We have many uses for the sponge. Okay, and selenurate. Selenurate like jellyfish, worms, arthropods like insects, mollusks like clams, and inchroderms like starfish. Okay, so all of these called by invertebrates, and the main features between them, okay, they have no backbone. Okay, so don't forget, try to classify and try to differentiate between the vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay, vertebrates, they have backbone. Invertebrates, they haven't backbone or vertebral column. It's clear now? Okay. Now, my dear student, let's go for exercise to check our understanding. Choose the correct answer. I want all of you to leave everything in your hand. Look carefully to your laptop screen and come with me. Try to check your understanding. Which of the following statements isn't related to bacteria? They are prokaryotes. Their genetic material is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Their cell wall contains pedagogical substance. They are unicellular organisms. Try to think. Yes, good, you are right. Yes, letter B, it is the correct answer. Their genetic material is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Let's go for another question. If a living organism has its genetic material free in the cytoplasm and lack mitochondria, then this organism is prokaryote, eukaryote, plant, animal. Yes, try to think, concentrate. It is not an easy question. Yes, excellent. It is prokaryote. Okay, so this living organism is prokaryote. Okay, another question. All eukaryotes are similar in containing large vacuole, mitochondria, cell wall, chloroplasts. Yes, try to think. I hear somebody say the right answer. Good. It is mitochondria. All eukaryotes are similar in containing mitochondria. That's good. Another question. Fungi and protozoa are similar in that all of them contain cell wall, are heterotrophic, are aquatic, are unicellular. Good. This is the right answer. I agree with you. Yes, they are heterotrophic. So fungi and protozoa are similar in that all of them, okay, are heterotrophic. Good. Another question, try to read with me. Which of the following kingdoms, all its organisms are autotrophic? Again, which of the following kingdoms, all its organisms are autotrophic? Protista, plants, animalia, fungi. Good, excellent. Yes, plants. So which of the following kingdoms, all its organisms are autotrophic? It is a plant. And don't forget, I mentioned before, autotrophic here means the plant can do its own food through the photosynthesis process as example. That's good. Another question. Which of the following is a characteristics of animal kingdom? Again, which of the following is a characteristics of animal kingdom? All its organisms are unicellular. All its organisms are autotrophic. Most of its organisms are capable to move. Most of its organisms are prokaryotes. Yes, try to think deeply. Yes, that's right. Good. Most of its organisms are capable to move. That's good. And let's go for another question for more clarification and to confirm our understanding. Insects belong to coeluroid, arthropods, mollusks, enchinoderms. Yes, you are good. Arthropods. Okay. And now, my dear student, let's go for the cell. And we need to know more about the cell, the structure, okay? And we need to know the type of the cells also, animal and the plant cell, and the main differences between them, okay? So, what is the cell? The cell is the structure and the functional unit of living organism. Again, the cell is the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. And now look to this diagram, which represents the plant cell in your right hand and the animal cell in your left hand. Okay, and now we will make a brief comparison between the main differences between the plant cell and the animal cell. Okay, let's start. We'll start by the cell wall, which is found only in the plant cell and you cannot find it in the animal cell. Okay, and cytoplasm, which is a jelly liquid, transparent, which fill all the plant and the animal cell, and the cytoplasm found in both plant and the animal cell. Also, the cell membrane, found in both animal and plant cell. Okay, and it is semi-permeable membrane, which allow the nutrients and the waste to get outside and inside the cell. Also the nucleus, which contains the, yes, hereditary substance or the genetic substance. And we have the nucleus also in the animal cell. Mitochondria, which is the source of generating energy, whatever in the plant cell or in the animal cell. So the mitochondria found in both plant and the animal cell. Okay, what else? Yes, endoplasmic reticulum, which is like a connection tubes between the different organelles inside the plant or the animal cell. Okay, so endoplasmic reticulum, you can see it in both plant and in the animal cell. What else? Plastid or the green plastid, which specific characters for the plant cell only, and we cannot find it in the animal cell. So the plastid here, it is a characteristics for the plant cell only. Okay? Finally, the vacuole, which is found in both in the plant cell and in the animal cell. But there is a little bit different between them. In the plant cell, the vacuole, it is little in number and big in size. You can find 1 or 2, maximum 3 vacuoles inside the plant cell. But in the animal cell, the vacuoles are small in size, but it is big in number. You can find more and more vacuoles inside the animal cell. Okay, so we can get the main difference between the animal and the plant cell. First, it is a cell wall. It's found in the plant cell, but it's absent in the animal cell. Okay, and green plastids, which found in the plant cell and it's not found in the animal cell. Also, the difference between the vacuoles. The vacuoles in the plant cell, it is big in size, little in number, okay, but in the animal cell, the vice versa. A lot of vacuoles, okay, but they are small in number. Now, my dear student, let's go for more details about each organelles and each component of the plant or the animal cell. Okay, follow me. Cell wall. Okay, the cell wall, a thick wall made of cellulose, surrounds the cell, defines its shape, includes its component, and protects it. Also, cellulose walls are characterized by being permeable to water and salt. Also, it's found in the plant and the fungal cells. So this is the characters of the cell wall. Okay, that's good. Second, cell membrane or plasma membrane. A thin, semi-permeable membrane surrounds the cell in all living organisms. It separates the cell component from the surrounding environment and protecting them. Okay? Finally, it regulates the passage of materials into and out of the cell. So this is that cell membrane. We talk now in more details about each component and each organelle in the plant or the animal cell. Okay, we start by the cell wall. Now this is the cell membrane. And next we go for the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm, it is a gel-like substance, mostly composed of water. It contains some important chemicals necessary for the cell's survival. So the cytoplasm, it's completely fill the plant or the animal cell, and it is very essential for the survival of the cell. The nucleus. The nucleus is located inside the cell and controls the cell's activities. It is like the brain. The brain controls all the activities of the human body. The same thing, the nucleus, it is like that control the room. It's control everything in the cell. Also, it contains the genetic material that determines the organism's traits. Again, it contains the genetic material that determines the organism's traits. Okay? It's found in both plant and animal cell. So this is the most important information about what? About the nucleus. Let's go for another one. It's usually located at the center of the animal cell, and it is little bit lateral in the plant cell. Okay? Chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are found only in the plant cell. They contain chlorophyll substance and carry out photosynthesis process. So the photosynthesis process happened by the help of the chloroplast. And we called it, by the way, the green plastid. Okay? Next, vacuoles. They store food, water, and excess salt. They are few, large, and located at the center of the plant cell. Meanwhile, they are numerous and small-sized in the animal cell, as I mentioned before. Okay? Mitochondria, organelles that serve as energy production centers in the cell. So it is the main source of the energy inside the cell. It's like the battery. It's produce energy, okay, for all the cell. Endoplasmic reticulum, a group of membranes used to transport various materials from one place to another inside the cell. Again, endoplasmic reticulum, found in both plant cell and in the animal cell. A group of membranes used to transport various materials from one place to another inside the cell. That's good. Now, my dear student, let's check our understanding through a variable questions. We start with choose the correct answer. Which of the following are the main differences between plant and the animal cell? Nucleus, cytoplasm, green plastid and cell wall, mitochondria. Try to think. I think we made very important comparison between the plant and the animal cell, and I think most of you know the right answer. Yes, excellent. Green plastid and cell wall. That's right. Good. Another question. Which of the following structure exists in all living organisms? Yes, in all living organisms. Nucleus membrane or chloroplast, cell wall, plasma membrane. Yes, that's good. Plasma membrane. Let's go. Another question. The function of chloroplast in the cell is performing photosynthesis process, transport inside the cell, breakdown of glucose and energy production, water storage. Yes, try to think. It's not an easy question. Try to concentrate, please. Leave everything in your hand. Yes, you are right. This is the right answer. Performing photosynthesis process. That's good. A group of membranes used to transport various material from one place to another inside the cell. Vacuoles, mitochondria, endodermic reticulum, okay, or chloroplast. I will repeat the question again. A group of membranes used to transport various materials from one place to another inside the cell. Vacuoles, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, chloroplast. That's right, okay. It is endoplasmic reticulum. A gel-like substance, mostly composed of water, containing some important chemicals necessary for the cell's survival. Mitochondria, green plastids, cytoplasm, plasma membrane. That's right. Good. Cytoplasm. Okay. Another question for more understanding. A structure in the cell that stores food, water, and excess salt. Green plastid, mitochondria, vacuole, plasma membrane. That's right. Good. Vacuole. Now, my dear student, let's talk briefly about the importance of water for living organisms. Okay? Water is universal solvent. It allows biological reactions to occur by dissolving mineral salts and nutrients and carrying gas such as oxygen and carbon dioxide to facilitate their transport inside the organism and getting rid of waste out of it. Also, the main component of cytoplasm is water. Cytoplasm enables the cell to maintain its shape and perform and create an internal pressure that resists the pressure surrounding the cell. It contributes to success of biological process within the cell and allows the organelles to function properly. Also, due to the high specific heat of water, it helps living organisms maintain stable internal temperature despite its fluctuation outside. Also, water is considered a basic factor in maintaining internal balance and supporting the complex chemical activities of life as it directly participates in metabolic process on which the organism life depends. Okay? Now, my dear student, we'll go for the metabolism, water and metabolism. And first, we need to understand what is meant by the metabolism or the metabolic process. Okay? It is one of the continuous biochemical reactions that takes place in the presence of water inside the cell. So this is a metabolic process. Metabolic process, yes. It is one of the continuous biological reactions that takes place in the presence of water inside cells. And now we need to know the type of metabolic process. The first type called by catabolic process. What is the catabolic process? The chemical bonds between the atom of complex molecules are broken to release the energy stored in them. So the main aim for the catabolic process producing or generating the energy. Okay? The chemical bonds between the atom of complex molecules are broken to release the energy stored in them. So in the catabolic, we release energy. Okay? That's good. Let's go for example. Example of catabolic process. The breaking of glucose sugar during cellular respiration into carbon dioxide and water. This is a very famous example for catabolic process. Again, catabolic process, example for a catabolic process, the breaking down of glucose sugar during cellular respiration into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, let's go for the second type of the metabolic process, which is anabolic. Yes, anabolic process. Okay, the large and complex molecules are made up of simple molecules, and such process consume energy. So anabolic, we absorb energy, we consume energy. Okay, so we now this is a big difference between them. Catabolic and anabolic. Catabolic generate energy. Anabolic, we absorb and consume energy. Okay, and now let's go for example to clarify the anabolic process. The photosynthesis process, the synthesis of proteins and ammonia acids. Okay, so in the photosynthesis process, the synthesis of proteins from ammonia acids. Okay, now my dear student, let's go to know how the metabolic process occur. For metabolic process to occur in the cell, they require a high activation energy to initiate the reaction. Okay, so the activation energy here, it is the minimum amount of energy needed to start a chemical reaction. So this is called by what? Yes, activation energy. So the chemical reaction will not happen inside the living organism or inside the cell. Even we need activation what? Activation energy. Okay? So the activation energy, the minimum amount of energy needed to start a chemical reaction. Now, the catalyst or activator. Okay? The catalyst or what? Activator. The substance that work to lower the activation energy of reaction, such as enzymes. So the catalyst or activator, a substance that work to lower the activation energy of reactions such as enzymes. Okay? Now, let's talk about the composition of the enzymes. Enzymes are composed of specialized protein substance that increases the speed of the chemical reactions in living organisms. Again, enzymes are composed of specialized protein substance that increases the speed of chemical reactions in living organisms. Okay? Now, enzyme working mechanism. How the enzyme work inside the living organism or inside the cell. Enzymes work through a mechanism called by lock and key. Lock and key, where the activation sites of the enzyme bend to the substance. It affects the substrate, yes, which helps reactant convert into product more efficiently. At the end of the reaction, the enzyme remains unchanged. So the most important feature in the working of the enzyme will never change whatever before and after the biological reaction happen. Okay, so the enzyme work through the mechanism called by lock and key, where the active site of the enzyme bind to the substance it affects, which is called by the substrate. Okay, which helps reactant convert into product more efficiently. At the end of the reaction, the enzyme remains unchanged, and you have to confirm this information. Okay, the enzyme remains unchanged whatever before and after the reaction happen. Okay, and now let's look for this diagram which shows how the enzyme work. Okay, this is a substrate. Okay, and here the binding site and the catalytic site. Okay, and the enzyme and substrate complex which connected together, and in this case the enzyme tried to lower the activation energy which we needed to break down the bond or form the bond. Finally, the product appears and the enzyme still the same. There is no change whatever before the reaction or after the reaction. Okay? Okay, my dear student. Now, ideal temperature and pH for the enzyme. Each enzyme has an ideal temperature and pH value at which it works most effectively. If the temperature or pH value deviates higher or lower than its optimal range, the enzyme's activity gradually decreases until it stops completely. So we have a specific pH and a specific temperature, which is the optimum factor to make the enzyme work efficiently. Look to this diagram, this graph, which represents the rate of the enzyme activation and the pH. At 8 pH, okay, it is called by the optimum pH for the enzyme, where it has the maximum activation power. Okay? Now, my dear student, let's go for check your understanding and follow me. First question, which of the following correctly links water and metabolic reaction? Water stores energy directly. Water is a medium for biochemical reactions. Water stops enzyme activity. Water forms the plasma membrane. Try to think. Yes, that's right. Water is a medium for biochemical reactions. Another question. Which of the following factors directly slow down enzyme activity? Increasing the number of mitochondria, raising the temperature above the optimal limit, availability of substrate molecules in the abundance, increasing the size of the subvacuole. Good. Raising the temperature above the optimal limit. Which of the following factors directly slow down enzyme activity? Increase the number of mitochondria, release the temperature above the optimum limit, availability of substrate molecules in abundance, increase the size of the subvacuole. Yes, that's right. It is raising the temperature above the optimal limit. Okay? Choose the correct answer. Dysfunction of mitochondria in the cell directly lead to cessation of protein synthesis, reduction of ATP production, failure of cell division, Cessation of transpiration, maintain. Yes, that's right. Reduction of ATP production. Now let's go for essay question. Explain. Water helps living organisms maintain a stable internal temperature despite its external outside. Good. The answer, due to the high specific heat of water, it helps living organisms maintain stable internal temperature despite its fluctuation outside. Okay, that's good. Okay, my dear student, this is the end of our lesson for today. I hope all of you understood well. See you next time and goodbye.